And so the party and the party brand and the party ticket become more important than the individual. To the Prime Minister of the country, same standard. It bothers me immeasurably when institutions like the State Bank of India behave in a way that is completely unacceptable for a regulated bank to behave and give answers to the Supreme Court. The per capita income of India today is about 16% less than that of Bangladesh. Relatively unlimited free enterprise and private property to be enhanced by the work, talent, luck, good outcomes of individuals. In other ways, the functioning of the administration, as a sitting minister I'm telling you, has deteriorated dramatically. Across India, roughly 40% of all government jobs are vacant. That is, sanctioned posts in the government are vacant. Rarity in politics to have the breadth of experience and education that I've had around the world. So maybe that's the natural fit. And of course, I had different portfolios, so I've come here for different reasons. As a finance minister, as the IT minister, is my idea of the notion of democracy. What is it supposed to achieve for us? How should it really function? Where are we today? And what could the future be like? I'm not saying anything political. I'm just talking philosophically. If anybody feels that I'm veering off the notion of philosophy, please let me know. That one of the critical components of the notion of democracy is that it needs to be the proper adjunct or the proper companion to the notion of private enterprise, free markets, and capitalism as defined by private enterprise and free markets. Is to keep a society as a relatively level playing field, as a relatively equitable community, even while allowing relatively unlimited free enterprise and private property to be enhanced by the work, talent, luck, good outcomes of individuals. Then there is a very clear role for the state, whatever that state should be. The Constitution defines who the state is, whether it's government in Delhi or in a state or in a local body. And from an economic perspective or a commercial activity, free enterprise perspective, the job of the state is probably primarily threefold. One, to provide a decent quality of life, an equitable outcome for even those at the bottom of the pyramid. Enterprise determines winners rather than who's an insider, who can pull what string, who can pay what bribe, who can scratch whose back. So you want a level playing field so that anybody who has the talent, the idea, the innovation, the work ethic can compete equally with everybody else on those dimensions and not any other dimension. And then the third is to ensure that the state itself is properly funded and you get the double benefit of taxing the really well-to-do and using it to provide better public support and better public goods and services, and also therefore not allowing the extreme differences in wealth or income to tear society apart because you have a lot of people disgruntled and a very few people who are very well off. The improvement of average health outcomes. You can't say it should be what the best gets. You should say, including the lowest, what is it that you get the average outcome? In fact, I'll go the other way. If I'm looking at things like state schools, that is government-run schools, I should say, what is the worst school? That is the benchmark that I need to improve, because you're already at the bottom of the pyramid. Here, you got to look at where the floor is. If I'm looking at the most expensive international school where my kids go, it doesn't matter. Then I say how many go to Harvard and how many go to Stanford. Doesn't, there's a different benchmark. It should also be that in every equitable society, you should have a middle tier, whether that is middle tier industries, whether that is middle class incomes, whether that is middle tier banks. You must have a middle tier. You cannot have very few rich people, a lot of poor people, and nothing in the middle. That is the definition of failure of capitalism, failure of democracy, failure of an equitable society. You must also have, in my opinion, very high communal harmony. everybody should be very comfortable with everybody else. We shouldn't be pointing fingers and say this community, that religion, that caste, because that is detrimental to the notion of free enterprise, productivity, and even the safety and well-being of our citizens. In my view, this is all my theory, right? I'm not reading this from any book. This is my 58 years of life experience in across decades in different industries, many degrees, many countries. For a long time now, not 10 years, not 20 years, but for a long time now, the quality of our democracy has been waning. If you look at the recent inequality report, the gap between the rich and poor, or the concentration of wealth in the top 1%, 10%, has been accelerating quite a bit after the 90s, 2000s, after liberalization. Free trade, free enterprise, removal of barriers will always increase the overall pie. It will also always increase the stratification unless the government goes out of its way to prevent such stratification from happening. This is not rocket science for those who have studied development or economics or international trade. In other ways, as an MLA first and now as a minister, I would say the system of government is failing. The notion of how the Constitution was written to how we operate today, a huge gap. The role of legislators has eroded almost unrecognizably from what was intended in the Constitution. And so the party and the party brand and the party ticket become more important than the individual in most cases. So you have now effectively removed one leg of the three pillars of democracy as envisioned in the Constitution. In other ways, the functioning of the administration, as a sitting minister I'm telling you, has deteriorated dramatically. Across India, roughly 40% of all government jobs are vacant. That is, sanctioned posts in the government are vacant. At that level of vacancy, already the bulk of government spending goes towards government employee salaries and pensions. You have a dichotomy now. You can't afford the scale, you can't afford to fill, and how long will you keep these empty? Therefore, you have systemic failures of the worst kind. I was a member of the Public Accounts Committee for 5 years. Hundreds, no, not hundreds, thousands of audit paras had been left unresolved. What is the consequence of that? That means there is no accountability left in the system. Why should I bother to do an audit, then get a report, then put it in the Accounts Committee, then do a review? If it's not going to get resolved for 20 years, I may as well not have bothered to do the audit. In fact, doing the audit and doing this whole charade is like acknowledging that there is no regulation, there is no compliance, there is no consequence for the lack of compliance. In every way, I would say the system needs profound reform. That's what people like me are supposed to bring to the table. That's what I thought I was doing for the first 2 years when I was Minister for not just finance, but pensions, planning and development, as well as what used to be called personnel and administrative reforms that my Chief Minister changed the name to human resources management. I brought hundreds of reforms. Many of them I still don't want to talk about because some of them are working quietly, some of them have been undone. But anyway, the net result is the system needs reform. It was to prevent cronyism and to prevent you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I want to take only one example, which is the input duty on materials that many of you in the textile industry were bringing in, where there was a significant input duty. You finally convinced the government to get it removed, and then mysteriously it was reimposed. And now the mystery is starting to get a little bit less murky because we see some major donors who benefited from the input duty having bought lots and lots of electoral bonds and made donations. Whoever got the electoral bonds, even if it's my own party, electoral bonds are antithetical in the design of anonymity. They are antithetical to the core notion of a democracy, that people should be able to know who is doing what, when, how, and what are the consequences of their actions. It bothers me immeasurably when institutions like the State Bank of India behave in a way that is completely unacceptable for a regulated bank to behave and give answers to the Supreme Court. This is a redeemable democracy. Now, I must confess that this is not an India problem alone. If you look around the world, the quality of democracy has eroded all over the place. in the United States, where I spent 20 years of my life, and lots of parts of Europe. In many places, the quality of democracy has eroded. But in India, it has eroded in a way that has led to some dramatic economic decay. The per capita income of India today is about 16% less than that of Bangladesh. Now they have a per capita income which is 16% higher than ours. The per capita income of Uttar Pradesh is roughly equal to sub-Saharan Africa and is less than half of that of Pakistan. These are not the kinds of equitable outcomes that a democracy that is functioning and flourishing should have resulted in. It has gotten worse in the last 10 years. That's what worries me the most. That is that Uttar Pradesh, which used to be 40% of Tamil Nadu's per capita GDP in 2014, having the benefit of a similar party, both at the state and the union government, and having seen a huge increase, 1 lakh crore rupees increase in their allocations in 10 years. In 2014, if Tamil Nadu got 1 rupee, Uttar Pradesh got 2 rupees 80 paise. My country is my country, my responsibility, my vote, my approach. And you must hold everybody accountable to the same standard. I'm not talking about A, B or C. Everybody, from your councillor to the Prime Minister of the country, same standard. And I really worry that we need to change direction pretty dramatically everywhere. In Tamil Nadu, I would say we did significant change in relatively little time. You ask me, have we come far enough? We've got a long way to go. As far as I'm concerned, this is me speaking as a human being. I still have my own conscience, my own values. There's still a lot to do.